So today I'm going to start chapter number 1, which is sets. So let us first see what are the objectives of today's lecture. So what are we going to learn today? Number 1, what is a set? Number 2, what is a set notation? How are we going to represent a set? How to identify the objects or elements of the set? And number 4, what is descriptive form and tabular form of the set? The rest of the topics I will be covering in another video which I will upload next week. So this is part 1 of the chapter. Now let's move to the introduction. I guess it will be better for you to understand what sets are if I take examples from our daily lives, right? So we often use such kind of words which represent a collection or a group of different things, right? For example, there are players in a football team, right? So we're gonna call them a team of players. If there are lots of birds sitting in the area or flying around, so we're gonna call them a flock of birds, right? Or if there are a lot of sheep in the farm and they're moving around, and we're gonna call them a herd of sheep, right? So of also you must have heard your mother saying, okay, this belongs to this is a set of plates, or this is a set of bowls, right? So this is something very common that you must have heard in your house. So these are different words which we use in English language to represent a collection or a certain group of things, right? Okay, so in mathematics there is a specific word to represent a group or a collection of certain things, and we call it as set, right? So in mathematics we use this word set to represent a group or a collection of things. Understand? Now let's move forward. In terms of mathematics language, if there's there is a group of red flowers around, and we're gonna call them a set of red flowers. Let's suppose let's take the word bat, right? So if we take its alphabet, we're gonna call them a set of alphabets in a word bat. Similarly, a set of best friends, a set of girls in a class, a set of my favorite dishes. So this is how gonna use the word set when we are talking about a group in mathematic terms. I believe from these examples you must have got a basic idea what a set is. So let's talk about a formal or a basic definition of a set. So in maths, a collection of distinct and well-defined objects is called a set. Now you must be thinking, what does distinct and well-defined means? So in English language, distinct means clear or something that is easily noticeable or very precise. Okay, and the word well defined means something which is clearly defined or described. Nothing is hidden or nothing is in its abstract sense, right? So in a set, the objects must be easy to identify and they do not repeat themselves. Okay, so next move forward. So when it comes to well defined, what does it mean when we talk about it in mathematical terms, or when we were talking about in the definition of set? So well defined means a specific property of an object that enables it to be an element of a set or not. So this means that the element of a set, the thing which is a part of set we're going to talk about, it must have a specific property, so that which makes it a part of a set. If it doesn't have that particular property, it cannot be a part of the set. So let's take the following examples of collections or groups. For example, the collection of good stories, the collection of tasty foods, and the collection of favorite poems. I believe these examples might clear the concept of what well defined actually means. Let's see these sentences again. The collection of good stories, the collection of tasty foods, the collection of favorite poems. Here you see that these three words, good, tasty, and favorite, are underlined. So, on the basis of these words, these sets cannot be called as well defined sets because they may be good stories, tasty foods, or favorite poems for only one person. but it may not hold the same for another person. The other person might have different choices. He might have different he might prefer other stories. For him they are good, and he might prefer eating other foods. For him they are tasty. It might be not tasty for the other for the previous person, right? So on the basis of these statements we cannot call these sets as well defined, because it is not the same for everyone. So you may call a set as a kind of a universal truth, or something that holds true in every case, and it cannot be changed from one person to another. Okay. So for example, if we talk let's take this example. Okay, a set of 5 provinces of Pakistan is a well defined set, because you have clearly mentioned of what 5 provinces you're talking about. You're talking about the 5 provinces of Pakistan. It's well defined, it's clearly mentioned for what you're talking about. Then again, look at the second example, a set of brave boys. You cannot, this is not a well defined set. Why? Because there are a lot of brave boys. You don't know what kind of particular group you're talking about. It's not clearly mentioned, so this is not a well defined set. Then another let's take another example, a set of wooden chairs. Now you know that there are different kinds of chairs. There are plastic chairs, there are metal chairs, there are wooden chairs. Okay, so it's clearly mentioned that what kind of chairs they are talking about. So a set of wooden chairs is a well defined set. It's properly clearly mentioned. Everything is obvious in it. So that's how you're going to identify which kind of a set is a well defined or which is not. Okay. Now let's talk about what does distinct means when we talk about distinct in a set. How can a set be distinct? Okay, so a distinct means the same objects should not appear more than once. Okay, so what does that mean? So when you're writing the elements of a set, I will explain it to you later how you can write a set. So let's just discuss this concept first. So when you're writing the objects of or an elements or the elements of the set, they should not repeat themselves. So if you're writing numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, so it's not a distinct set because 4 is repeating itself. So every element should only be written once, not twice or thrice. For example, the set of letters of the word small is SMAL. So you're not writing double L. You're not writing two times L in this set, because it's a distinct set. If you're going to write it twice, then it won't be a distinct set because the L is getting repeated. So in a set, every item is listed only once. So I hope you must have got an idea. So what does well defined or distinct means? If not, don't worry. I'll be explaining some examples later on. So first let's see the set notation. So basically set notation means that how you're going to write a set or how you're going to represent it. Say So number one, there are two things that should be there in a set when you're writing it. First, a set is represented by a capital letter A, B, C till Z of English alphabets. You cannot write the name of a set with small letters. Alright, so only small letters are written inside the set as an elements, but not they cannot be represented with small letters. Okay, so second thing you have to keep in mind is that you have to write the elements inside a set in between these curly brackets, and each element should be separated by commas. For example, there is a set of pets. So how are we going to write it? A set of pets can be written as P is equal to curly brackets open, cow, comma goat, comma horse, comma cat, comma dog, and curly brackets closed. So cow, goat, horse, cat, and dog are called the elements or members of the set, right? So this is how you're going to represent a set, starting with any capital letter, then equals to, then opening a curly bracket, writing all the elements of the set separating each of them by the commas and then closing the curly brackets, right? Now let's take another example. Um, there's a set of first five natural numbers and it can be written as n, capital N is equal to curly brackets open 1, comma 2, comma 3, comma 4, comma 5 and then the brackets closed. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are the elements of the set, right? Okay, now let's talk about these two symbols which are mostly used while representing the elements of a set. So you may see these two symbols as a capital E and the other one as a capital E with a slash on it. So the symbol, this E, is basically called epsilon. It's a Greek letter word is a Greek letter, sorry, which is used to tell that an object is an element of or belongs to a set, right? Okay, so the other one, epsilon with a slash on it, means that it does not belong to or is not the element of the set, right? Now let's take an example from the previous slide, that is the set of first five natural numbers. N is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So symbolically, if we want to write the elements of the set, we're going to write it as 1 epsilon n is read as 1 belongs to set n. 2 epsilon n is read as 2 belongs to set n, and so on. So if you want to write it as that 1 is a part of n, so you're going to write as 1 belongs to n, 2 belongs to n, 3 belongs to n, and 4 belongs to n, and 5 belongs to n. So you're not going to write the whole sentence. You're just going to write 1 epsilon n, just like that, just like this written on the slide in front of you, right? Now let's suppose there's a number, a natural number, 6, which is not a part of the set, right? So it was n is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here you can see that number 6 is not there. So how are we going to write it symbolically? So we're going to write it as 6 does not belong to n, right? So 6 epsilon with a slash n is read as 6 does not belong to set n. So this is how you're going to write when you've been asked to show whether this number or this element belongs to the set or not, right? Okay, now let's look at some of the standard sets that are kind of fixed representation of these sets. So these letters are assigned to these specific sets, right? So let's take the first one, which is n, which I also covered it in the previous examples. N is equal to a set of natural numbers. So you're going to write it as n equals to bracket 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma and dot 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 dot. So this dot 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 means it's going on and on. So you know there is no it's set of natural numbers, so there's no limit defined in it. So you're going to write dot 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 when there's no limit to it. You have not been defined till what number or what quantity you've been asked. Okay, I'm going to explain it further in the part 2 of this lecture. So the other one is capital E, which is a set of even numbers. So it's going to be E equals to bracket 2, 4, 6 and so on. Then O represents the set of odd numbers. So O is equal to bracket 1, 3, 5 and so on. And capital W is used to represent the set of whole numbers, which is W is equal to 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on. So there's a difference between whole numbers and natural numbers. Natural numbers start from 1, whereas whole numbers start from 0. We're going to cover this topic in chapter 2 as well. So let's let it be here till here for now. And P, capital P is used to represent a set of prime numbers. And you know what prime numbers are? Prime numbers are those numbers which does not come in any table other than 1 or its own self. Okay. So P is equal to 2, 3, 5, 7, 11 and so on. So these letters are assigned to these standard sets. Okay. Now let's move further. Now let's look at these examples. These examples might clear the concept of sets in your minds. So let's take this example number 1. Write the elements of the following sets. Number 1, A is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So how are we going to write the elements? So we're going to write the elements of a set as the elements of set A are 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So the basic rule is that you remove the curly brackets and you write it in a sentence form. Okay, so it's not that hard, it's really simple. Let's look at another example. Now let's take a look at another set, which is B is equal to brackets open, square, circle, star, bracket close. So how are we going to mention or write the elements of the set? So the answer would be the elements of set B are, you're going to draw these shapes as well. Square, circle and star. Right, so these are the elements of the set B. Now let's take another set, which is C is equal to Lahore, Sialkot, Islamabad, Karachi. And how are we going to write the elements of the set? You know the elements of set C are the Lahore, Sialkot, Islamabad, Karachi, and they are separated by commas. Okay, so you're going to write the elements of the set C as the elements of the set C are Lahore, Sialkot, Islamabad, and Karachi. Okay, let's take another example. The question of example 2 is state whether the following are sets or not. So there are 5 sets given here, and you have to identify whether these are sets or not. So if you remember the slide in which I mentioned the definition of set, so according to that, the sets must be well defined and they must be distinct. Okay, so we have to see whether these sets are well defined and distinct. If any of these property is not there, so it cannot be called as a set. So let's see. The number 1 is A is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. The second set B is equal to 1, 2, 2, 3. Third set is C is equal to KING. The fourth set is D is equal to the set of Pakistani singers, and the last one is E is equal to the set of brave boys. Now let's see which one of these are sets and which of these are not. So I would say pause this video and before it changes, just pause it for a while and think yourself and kind of test yourself whether according to you these are sets, which one of these are sets and which of one of these are not. You must remember what does well defined and distinct means. Okay, so just identify it in your mind and then um, play the video again and see the answers. So now let's look at the answer of the first set, which is A is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this is a set because the elements are well defined and they are distinct. They are well defined, they are clearly mentioned what the elements are, and they are distinct. They are not repeating themselves. So that's why A is a set. Now look at the set B, which was 1, 2, 2, 3. So B is not a set. Why? Because the elements are not distinct. Even the elements are well defined. They are clearly mentioned, but they are not distinct. 2 is repeating itself. That's why it cannot be called as a set. Now look at the third set, which was C is equal to KING. So this is a set because these elements are well defined, they are clearly mentioned and they are distinct. So none of the alphabets is repeating itself. So this set is well defined and distinct. Okay, now let's move further. Look at the set D, which was the set of Pakistani singers. So this is also a set because its elements are distinct and well defined. Okay, so Pakistani singers, there's you know that the singers are clearly defined. What kind of singers we are talking about? Which country do they belong? It's clearly mentioned. Okay, so it's clearly mentioned that they're talking about the Pakistani singers in the set, and they are this because none of the Pakistani singers are going to repeat himself or herself. Okay, so it's going to be distinct. That's why the set of Pakistani singers is a set. Okay, now look at the fifth set, sorry, which is E, the set of brave boys. So I also covered it in the start of the lecture as well. The set of brave boys cannot be called as a set. Why? Because its elements are not well defined. Okay, it's not clearly mentioned what kind of brave boys you're talking about, which country do they belong to, which area do they belong to. It's not clearly mentioned in it. So it's not a set because it's not clearly identified. Clearly. Okay, now look at the example number 3. So in the example number 3, the question states that if A is equal to A, E, I, O, U, then which of the following statements are true or false? Okay, now by looking at the elements, you may recognize them as the vowels in the English alphabets. Okay. So number 1, look at the statement number 1. A belongs to A. Now look at the elements of the set A. Can you see A as its element? Yes. A is a part of set A. It's the first element of the set. So this holds true. Now look at the second statement. B belongs to A. Now can you see B in it? No, because B is a constant and this is a set of vowels. So B is not there. So this statement is false. Now look at the third statement. X does not belong to A. So this statement says that X is not there in the set A. Can you see X in there? No. So this statement is true because X is not there. Okay, so it's saying that X does not belongs to A. So X is not there, right? So it's true. Now look at the fourth statement. U does not belong to A. You can see U in the set A, and here it's saying that it does not belong to set A. So this statement is false, obviously. Okay. So I hope this might clear the concept. If there's a question in your task that identify whether these statements are true or false, whether these elements are in the set are the elements of the set or not. So through this you can easily identify. Okay. Now let's move further. Okay. So now let's see how you can describe a set. So there are two ways to describe a set. Number one is descriptive form, and number two is tabular form. Now let's have a look what these two are and how they are used to describe a set. Okay. So what is descriptive form? Descriptive form means basically is to describe the property of a set by a statement. Or in easy words, you can say that you write the elements of a set in a sentence form. For example, A is equal to the set of English books in a school library. So you can see that you have represented or described this set in the form of a sentence. Let's take another example. B is equal to the set of animals in London Zoo. So here again you have described the set and the elements in it in the form of a sentence. So now let's look at what tabular form is. So basically the tabular form is that you list all the elements within the curly brackets and then you separate each element by a comma. This is what we were basically doing it in the examples before. This is what we were representing a set. This is the actual form of how you present a set. So this form is called a tabular form. For example, C is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's it's written between the curly brackets and each element is separated by comma. Let's take another example. For example, say D. D is equal to comma monkey. bracket monkey, comma tiger, comma zebra, comma giraffe, and bracket close. Okay. So I guess you may now differentiate what descriptive and tabular form, differentiate between what descriptive and tabular form is. In descriptive, you write the elements of a sentence or you describe the set in a sentence form, and in a tabular form, you actually write the elements of the sentence and between the brackets and separate them by commas. So now let's have a look at these examples. Example number 1 states that write the following sets into tabular form. So in this case, the sets will be given in a descriptive form, that is in a sentence form, and you have to understand what's basically they're asking, and then you have to write the elements, in a tabular form. So let's look at the example number 1, the question number, the part 1 of the example 1, which is A is equal to the set of vowels of the English alphabet. So now this is in the descriptive form and we have to write it in a tabular form. So you know what the of vowels are in the English alphabets, okay? So you're going to write it as A is equal to brackets open A, comma E, comma I, comma O, comma U, and brackets closed. Okay? So look at the another example, another question that is the set B. Capital B is equal to the set of years of the 21st century. So now how are you going to represent it in a tabular form? So B is equal to bracket opens 2001, 2002, 2003, and then so on, and you're going to end it at 2100 and brackets close. So since there are numerous amount of years and you cannot write it in the paper like that, so you're going to write dot 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 to mention that it's being continued till so on till 2100, and we are writing it from 2001 because 2000 was a part of the 19th century. So the 21st century starts from 2001, then 1 2 3 4 till 2100. Okay, so now let's look at the set C, the third set. C is equal to the set of letters of the word banana. So how are you going to write it? And you must know that it should be well defined and distinct. So distinct means no repetition of the letters. So how are you going to write it? C is equal to brackets open B, comma A, comma N, and the brackets close, because A is repeating itself 3 times and N is repeating itself in the word banana 2 times. So you're not gonna write A 3 times or N 2 times in the set. You're going to write A only once and N only once. Okay? Okay. Now look at the example number 2. The example number 2 states that write the following sets into descriptive form. Okay. So in the example number 1, we were given the sets in a descriptive form and we had to convert it into a tabular form. Now in this example, we have been given sets in a tabular form, and then we have to write the sentences for it. We have to write the sentences in a descriptive form. Now let's look at the question number 1. A is equal to 0, 1, 2, 3 dot 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 till 99 brackets close. So how are we going to write it in a descriptive form? So we know that 0 is a part of a whole number, and we can write the set in a descriptive form as A is equal to the set of all whole numbers less than 100. There can be two statements for it. You can either write this sentence, which is the set of all whole numbers less than 100, because we know that whole numbers start from 0, or you can also write it as the set of the set of all numbers from 0 to 99. Okay, so now look at another set, which is B is equal to potato, ladyfinger, carrot, and brinjal. We know that these are the names of the vegetables, so we can write the set B in the descriptive form as V is equal to the set of 4 vegetables, right? Okay. Now let's look at another question, which is A is equal to 2, 4, 6, and so on. So we know that 4, 6 are basically what? Even numbers. So you might have an idea how we're going to write it in the descriptive form. So it can be written as E is equal to the set of all even numbers. Why I have written all even numbers? Because it's going on and on and on, and you know that there are loads of numbers. There are lots of numbers, and there's no limit to it. It's an infinite set. Okay, so I'm gonna discuss um, about it in my lecture 2, in the part 2 of this video. I will upload it next week. Okay, so up till now I hope you must have understand what is a tabular form and what is a descriptive form, what is the basic definition of a set, what are the properties of a set that must be present in order to identify whether the statement or the elements you have been given belongs to a set or not. Okay, so I have covered all these topics. So I would request you to subscribe to my channel for more videos, because I'll be uploading this session wise videos throughout the year. Okay, I hope you must have understood this lecture really well. I'll meet you in the part 2 of this chapter next week. Till then, stay home and stay safe. Take care and bye bye.